I want to discuss something that sounds ugly, feels shameful, and totally mind-boggling for me. Feeling envious of a friend. Feeling envy or jealousy is a very icky, sick feeling to feel in your gut. Don't you agree? I hope you won't hate me after hearing me say that I felt envy over a friend. Recently, I saw one of my friends was doing well in her career, and a part of me wanted to congratulate her on her success, but another part of me just made me say nothing at all. It was truly a very weird state to be in. I couldn't understand it. It made no sense. It made me feel silly, but I just couldn't shake it off. Have you ever felt this way before? But I was determined to want to understand myself and my emotions, which led me to do more digging and reading about the concept of feeling envy or jealousy. To my surprise, I learned many things about myself and us as humans, our emotions. The way we feel sometimes really doesn't make the slightest sense. The findings I discovered helped to give me a different perspective on things, and so I wanted to share what I've learned in hopes to help anyone who is going through this feeling. It's gonna be a tad long, but I guarantee it will be super insightful, so bear with me until the end. To begin with, research shows that it is actually quite natural for us as humans to feel envy. It is part of our survival instinct. We use comparison to others to measure our own success, to motivate us to learn and grow. Not saying that this then makes feeling envy enjoyable in any sense. No, not at all. Among the articles and books I read, one of it in particular intrigued me the most. It is this research paper by the US National Library of Medicine. Here's one of the case studies that was presented. If you ask two beggars if they are more envious of A, someone who is similar to you in most respects, but is a bit wealthier, say by 50% wealthier, or B, more envious of Bill Gates. So what do you think? The answer is almost always the former. 10 out of 11 people they surveyed chose A. This totally does not make sense. One usually expects the strength of an emotion to be directly proportional to the resource being sought after. For example, blood glucose determines the degree of hunger. Following this argument, shouldn't the beggar be more envious of Bill Gates? Common sense might dictate that the more better off someone is than you, the more envious you should be. But counterintuitively, this isn't true. Let me introduce you to the concept of relevant social circle. Here's another case study. Let's say A, Joe lives in Timbuktu. He is very similar to you in talent, looks, capacity for work, etc. But he is twice as wealthy as you. And then there is B, also called Joe, your neighbor who is twice as wealthy. Who would you be envious about? Most people would be envious of B, more so than A. 11 out of 11 people that they surveyed chose B. Again, this makes evolutionary sense. There are millions of people who are just like A, and as I've described, they are identical to B. But your brain requires more direct triggers. On the other hand, you see and interact with B, and this is a direct trigger for envy to kick in. A is simply too abstract to relate to, and more importantly, is not competing for the same resources as you. In other words, this person is too far from you to do anything about. There would be no motivation to work harder, since even if you did, you would not gain access to resources in Timbuktu. You might admire him, even emulate him from a distance, but it would be futile to be envious. This has taught me two things. Firstly, envy doesn't really make sense, which helps me laugh it off a little. And secondly, it doesn't define me as a bad person. Hey, that makes me human. Okay, but this doesn't take away that feeling of envy completely. Very true. Which brings me to my next part. What I've come to learn from research done by clinical forensic psychologists is that experiencing a positive and negative emotion about a specific situation could potentially help us cope with difficult matters. We almost inevitably and effortlessly become emotionally invested when we hear about someone achieving something that directly correlates with our own goals. We might want to both congratulate our friend but also slide in a sarcastic comment due to the envy we feel. While commonly viewed as selfish, it is absolutely fine to feel happy about someone's success while feeling sad about our own personal struggle. The stress caused by existing in a state of conflict or ambivalence can cause us to act in a way that's out of character. However, the emotion that ends up winning in the end has a lot to do with our level of emotional maturity and the type of response that's triggered in our brains. So to solve this, rather than get stuck in this state of ambivalence, we may be able to use our ambivalent attitude towards our friends' success to figure out new ways to achieve our own goals. If we are self-aware, we can accept that feeling negative emotions like jealousy is perfectly normal. Once we do that, we can focus on acting in accordance with our deeper values, regardless of passing thoughts and feelings. Not only is ambivalence not necessarily unhealthy, there is even evidence that it can be beneficial if we focus it the right way. The attempt to resolve an apparently unresolvable conflict can lead to creative problem solving. Alright, now that you've understood all that, here's what has helped me to validate my feelings while being happy for others. Firstly, acknowledge the negative feeling. Let them be without obsessing over them. Trying to suppress it will only make it more potent. Next, it can be helpful to work through our feelings by discussing them with someone we trust, or even just writing them down. Sometimes this alone can be enough to ease the sense of conflict and discomfort created by ambivalence. List all the reasons why we are happy for our friend. Focus on celebrating their success and let the negative thoughts and feelings live in the background. Thirdly, understand that just because we see someone is winning in one aspect of their lives, it doesn't mean that their lives are perfect. Fact is, no one can have it all the time, whether it be health, happiness, family, relationships, wealth, friends, career, and every other thing that one desires in life. When one aspect of our lives excels, another part will most certainly have to give. Which also means if we want to be envious of someone, we also have to acknowledge that they've experienced loss in some area of their life. Lastly, use others' success as inspiration. Instead of looking at our friend's success as magnifying our failure, letting the fact that he or she achieved something that we are also working towards serve as proof that we too can get there. We can be proactive and evaluate how and why our friend was able to be successful and see if there are ways we can apply this knowledge to improve our own lives. As I was reading many articles, I came across this very deep and beautiful quote by Guillaume Apollinaire, a French poet. I hope I said his name correctly. Now and then, it's good to pause in our pursuit of happiness and just be happy. With all my heart, I truly do hope that what I've shared here has helped you to release the feeling of envy, just as how it has done for me, as well as to welcome some calm into your mind and joy into your heart. If you find my videos helpful and you'd like to support my channel, plus enjoy some special perks, do click the join button down below to find out more. Thank you so much for watching. Now, go have an amazing day, enjoy your little wins, and smile more. See you in my next episode of Thrive with Trish.